It's time for the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
On this edition of the Kirby on Sports Podcast, we will dive into the Thanksgiving Day matchup between the Cowboys and Raiders, talk about the Sunday night battle between the Ravens and the Browns, and the Monday night battle between the Washington football team and the Seattle Seahawks, plus my interview on that game with Lake Lewis Jr. of SportsJourney.com. All that and so much more, it all comes your way next. You're listening to the Kirby on Sports Podcast.
Shout out Q. Shout out Q.
Oh, indeed. I'm glad you connected. This is Dave Johnson, voice of the Washington Wizards. You have connected to the right place because you are listening to my man, Josh Kirby, on Sports Podcast.
We are coming to you from the Trumbull Insurance Agency virtual studio. Turn your stress and anxiety into peace and security with Trumbull Insurance. Contact Patrick Van Kemper today for all your insurance needs at 540-532-0622. For the rest of our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, and Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate. This is another edition of the Kirby on Sports Podcast. We are back once again with the three-man booth with the weapon Dan Dembski and the Swiss Army knife Carlos Martinez. First and foremost, Carlos, welcome back. We missed you last week. And Dan, it's good to see you once again. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing well, man. Season's flying by so far. So it's crazy. We're 11 weeks in now. We're I guess 12 weeks technically. So
this season feels like it's taking forever to end.
Oh yeah, is that the way you feel? Okay.
It feels like it's
flying
going by fast
for me, man.
I mean, you just want Dallas to lock it up. That's well.
It's a roller coaster ride with Dallas. We know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that it feels like it's going by fast, but then when you look up, you're like, oh, we still have like 6 more weeks of football to go. It just feels like it's taking so long to get to like the playoffs. That's what I'm
Adding a 17th game was so dumb. I really don't understand it. Like, why not just either keep it at 16 or make it 18 and get rid of the I don't know. Anyway, that's just me.
It's a compromise. They're like, well, we don't want to go to 18, but we don't want to stay at 16. Let's just go at 17.
I feel like they go back to 16. It's at some point.
That
really?
One game is too valuable.
I think it's
dollars. It's all about the money.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Show me the money, Dan. Show me.
Of course, it's all about the money. It always is.
Yeah, I mean.
All right, so let me give you all the quick rundown. We're talking Raiders, Cowboys, then the Ravens versus the Browns Sunday Night Football, and then the Washington football team versus the Seattle Seahawks matchup as well, plus my interview along with the Washington versus Seattle matchup with insider for the Washington football team, SportsJourney.com's Lake Lewis, host of the After Practice podcast.
Yay.
So stay tuned for that as well. So let's get things started. Thanksgiving Thursday, there were 3 games. We won't cover the other 2, but the Bears beat the Lions 16-14. The Bills beat the Saints 31-6. The game we're talking about right now, which was, I mean, it was a shootout, I'd like to say. I mean, I'll turn it to you, Carlos, in just a minute about what your thoughts were about Dallas, because to me, there were some things I liked about Dallas, but there were some things I also disliked about Dallas also. But Las Vegas, they came out, and I feel like they played a pretty decent football game. And yeah, I was very surprised too. just Deshaun Jackson just coming out and burning Dallas once again. I mean, I saw that. I mean,
Got to bring back old Washington players. It's not a Kirby on Sports podcast if he doesn't do that.
It's not that. He did it with Philly too, remember?
I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember where he started.
I saw the tweets.
Listen, in fairness to you, Kirby, Deshaun Jackson never did that to us as a Washington player. He did it to us mostly as a Eagles player.
Yeah, it's true.
That's why Deshaun Jackson is known for burning people in Dallas. But besides the point, that was a good play. Overall, it was a very, very good second Thanksgiving Day game. But I was very
much better than the other ones.
I was very disappointed that it was Thanksgiving and there was a massive fight that broke out. Two players just punched each other. We can't have that on Thanksgiving, guys. You punched a ref in the chin. We can't have that on Thanksgiving. It's very disappointing to see a fight break out on Thanksgiving Day when there's a lot we can be thankful for in terms of watching football, playing football. Being
really big deal about this fight. It was not that big of a deal.
I mean, still, two players got
in my opinion, at least in my opinion.
If it was hockey, we'd be praising them. So,
but
something to think about.
Thanksgiving Day, the Raiders and the Cowboys. Carlos, I'll just start with you. What do you like about the Cowboys? What do you dislike about the Cowboys?
Well, I can tell you what I disliked is the referees calling everything, not just on us, on the Raiders also. It was ridiculous how flag happy they were. Like, they called everything under the sun, and for this, especially this game being the most watched NFL regular season game in quite some time. I think it was like it finished at 31.5 million viewers. For the refs to put up that type of performance, it was awful, and it got kind of annoying, especially like later on in the game, because then the Raiders just kind of started taking advantage of that because they knew that they were going to call everything. So then they just started throwing it up, towards Anthony Brown, who had a horrific game. And every time he was getting called for pass interference, and that's all essentially the Raiders were doing, was just tossing it up there and just hoping to God that Anthony Brown would mess up, which he did multiple times and get a pass interference call. But what I liked from Dallas, I mean, there's not really much that I liked. I can't really. I mean, Dak had a horrible 3 quarters. Finally came alive in the 4th quarter. I mean, at least the team showed some fight. But I mean, against this Vegas team, I don't know. It's been, what is it? Today is Tuesday, so it's been almost a week since the game was played. So my thoughts are a little more scattered, I guess you could say, because it's been so long. So I don't have them like perfectly narrowed, but there's not much that I can really point to that I liked.
One thing I'll say, the undisciplined defense jumping off sides not once but twice. That second
time it costed them because the field goal kicker actually missed.
Right.
Yeah, he hit the crossbar.
Daniel Carlson. So
it costed Dallas. If they had just not jumped that time, he didn't make that second kick. So it gave them again a third try. It's not necessarily, I don't think, undisciplined. It was more of he was trying to time the snap, and he just kept mistiming it by like a couple seconds. And he tried doing it twice. And at that point, you have to do something because, all Vegas needed was a field goal to win. I mean, the good news that I can pull from this is that, hey, we have reinforcements on the way. Okay, we have, we got Amari Cooper coming back, although reports are Amari Cooper still isn't feeling the best despite not having COVID anymore. He's not necessarily 100% back. And, of course, we have Zeke coming back from concussion protocol. And then, obviously, we got, DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, and a bunch of defensive guys coming back. And then if we can just rest Ezekiel Elliott for like 2 weeks, maybe he'll get back to where he was a couple weeks ago. That's the good news, right? But the bad news is it shows that there's a limit to how far this team can go without those guys. And we have been in a slump since the bye week. We've only won, what is it? We've only beaten Atlanta and Minnesota since the bye week. And Dallas just doesn't look like a team that's ascending right now. So, I mean, there's just so many issues right now. Now we have the issue of the Saints on Thursday, in which we're not even going to have our head coach. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, Carlos covered it well. I do think, though, Dak, as you mentioned, didn't play well for 3 quarters, but he still almost threw for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, if there was one very positive takeaway, it's how Dak was able to step up late. And like you said, without CeeDee Lamb, shoot, it's just slipped the back of my mind. Amari Cooper, thank you. The concern for Dallas's offense is the fact that they just couldn't run the ball at all in this game, and they really didn't run the ball much. I mean, Pollard
that was
had 10
surprising
carries.
to me too.
Oh yeah, that was the other issue. Is I don't understand why the hell Dallas was like rotating our linemen the way we were at the beginning of the game. Like, what are we rotating our linemen for? Just have that unit, that consistent unit that's going to build that consistency. I don't know why the heck they were rotating, Terrence Steele, and who now Terrence Steele is out with COVID also. I don't understand why they're like rotating Terrence Steele and then they're rotating Lyle Collins and just rotating all these guys out, Connor McGovern, whatever. It was just it was just stupid. I don't know what they were doing at the beginning of the game, and I think it kind of just messed things up.
Yeah, and Pollard only had 36 yards. Zeke only had 25 yards. So the key thing for them, you mentioned they have to get Zeke healthier. Well, just sit him out a week and let Pollard. I mean, Pollard's proven that when he's given the opportunities, he can be a good back for you. He's maybe not he's not a permanent number 1 for this team, I don't think, as long as you have Zeke and he's healthy. Zeke's your number 1 guy. I mean, that's especially because he's stepped it up this season and turned it around for the majority of it. And I'll say for Dallas's defense, I mean, they had an off game. I mean, we've talked about how well they had been playing all season long. Really, they've been a completely different unit thanks to Dan Quinn. And the thing was, they just took a step back in this game. I mean, Hunter Renfrow absolutely killed their secondary. 8 catches for 134.
Why Hunter Renfrow should be beating us the way he was? Like, he was wide open.
Wide open. Yeah. Like
on plays where I just don't understand what we were doing defensively. It just made no sense.
Yeah, it didn't look like the lockdown Dallas defense. I think they were playing a lot of soft coverages, a lot of soft zones. I mean, that's what it looked like to me as just a casual football fan. But again, who knows? But Dallas had 28 penalties. Is that I mean, that's just. Let me double check that real quick.
How many times have I said Dallas needs to clean up these stupid penalties because they're gonna hurt them?
Sorry, it was 14 for both teams. So I mean, both teams.
It was 28 in total. It's still, but like some
14
of the calls,
penalties is a lot.
Yeah, but some of the calls were so rinky dink. Like I said, like I still don't believe that last one was like a purely, especially in that situation. I don't think that was worth being called pass interference. Now, Dan, you thought different.
I mean, there wasn't much contact. I can see
why you call it, but I think in that situation you don't.
I mean, according to the rule book, just anytime a guy's going to have his head facing the other direction and it looks like there's contact, there really wasn't a lot of contact there, but the refs are going to throw the flag every time on it. And look, we're still not at a point where flags like pass interference are reviewed, which I think is insane to me.
They were. Remember, they were reviewable.
Yeah,
they would never change the call.
They would never.
They never changed the call because they were too afraid to.
Yeah. Well, they got that was a flawed system. Okay. I've watched so many games this year where I've seen bad officiating. You see it every week. I saw it in the Ravens game this week, and I saw it in your guys' game. I've seen it in every game, and it's weird because you either have those refs who never call anything. They let them play, but then they'll throw a flag late in the game that is questionable, right? Or you'll have this where it was just like constantly, like even the most slight penalty or thing that could have been considered a penalty, a flag was thrown. So officiating deserves all the criticism they've gotten throughout the season. They deserve to continue to be criticized because, to be honest, they've cost the teams games. They have simply, and it's just gotten worse and worse, really, in the last 3 to 4 years.
Definitely.
And the criticism is fair. The criticism is fair. You got to be fair and you got to be consistent across the board. That's the other thing. The officiating in the NFL is not consistent. Like, you see penalties called one style of holding in one game, and there's completely different. It's just like in baseball where you have strike zones. It's the same type of thing. Every official is going to be different, but there's no uniformity, and that again is a big issue for officiating in general. That's like my own little side rant, but
I think I agree with you. I think the problem is it's the consistency of it, because also it's just not clear what's what. Like, what is a pass interference? Is it a pass interference if it's the receiver who initiates the contact, who jumps back at it, and the receiver doesn't get a chance to look back at it? Is that pass interference? Like, what's a catch? Like, we still don't even know what a catch is. We've gotten screwed on that multiple times. That, by the way, that Des Bryant catch was a catch.
Oh, it was. It definitely was a catch.
So I just don't. And again, it wasn't exclusively to Dallas in this game. There were a lot of calls that happened with the Raiders that I didn't think were penalties at all.
Right.
It was just an awful performance by the refs. They kind of made it about themselves. They called every single penalty under the sun. Dallas also did not do what they needed to do to win this game. And quite frankly, I mean, another Thanksgiving. I mean, they're 4-8 on Thanksgiving since 2010. Like, it's so bad.
Pretty bad.
Like, I can only remember 4 Thanksgivings where I could actually celebrate. They ruined every Thanksgiving. It's time to take the Cowboys off Thanksgiving, damn it.
Well, I think there's a better.
I don't want that, but
I think there's a better argument for Detroit to be taken off Thanksgiving.
That one for sure.
That's picking up some steam.
One for sure.
I just want to close out and say that Dallas's defense had an off game, and I really wouldn't be too concerned with it. I think the big thing is Dallas getting more healthy at this point. And like you said, Carlos, the big thing, shuffling around offensive linemen is a recipe to lose. I mean, it pretty much is. If you're doing that mid game and you're doing that, then you're asking for the defense especially the defensive line, to dominate you. And I thought Vegas's defense pretty much had their way because of that early on.
My last thing is just the most frustrating thing is I still believe that this Dallas team is much better than this Vegas team, and that's the frustrating thing as a Cowboys fan, is because our last 3 losses, the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Raiders, I still feel like Dallas is the better team. They just didn't come out and perform at the level we expected them to perform. And we're 1-3 against the AFC West. Luckily, all our losses are, aside from the Buccaneers loss, but everything is against the AFC. So ultimately, that's not going to come to tiebreakers. If it's a tie-breaking scenario, those losses aren't going to come against us. But still, this was we had an opportunity on Thursday to really make a push for the 1 seed, and now it's more of what are we doing? Are we I think maybe we focused too much on that, and now we lost sight of, hey, we need to focus on securing the division first before we think about the 1 seed. I think, especially now with Washington now, they're on a little bit of a run. The Giants, I'm not worried about. The Eagles, I'm not worried about. It's Washington that I'm actually starting to get a little worried about, because they have some momentum going. Not that I think that they're going to beat us, but still, they can surprise us. I think Dallas needs to focus and really because we don't have the division locked up. It's not on lock yet. And if we let it happen, Washington is going to steal it from right under us.
Yeah, and one last thing to remember, the NFC, as far as the in the hunt teams, I mean, just about every single team in the NFC is in the hunt or in the playoffs right now. I mean, if you just look at that, it's just a long list of all these teams that are
it's the same
at
thing
500
on the
or just below 500 that are right there in the mix of things. Now, that's going to work itself out as we get further and further into the season, hopefully. I mean, hopefully. There's been so much parity this year in the NFL as far as so many subpar teams that are right there on the cusp of things. I think Dallas will take care of the division. I do. I really still believe that, because like you said, I mean, Philly and the Giants are no concern. Washington could be sneaky, but I still think Dallas will find a way to win that division.
Yeah, and obviously we're going to talk about Washington later, but yeah, like truly, like watching that game last night, I'm like, if Dallas isn't careful, Washington's going to sneak up on them, and
for sure, you can't take any game lightly in the NFL. I mean, this
not
year's
only that, yeah, we still have 2 games against them, so we'll see what happens.
My last takeaway from this game that really is concerning to me. Well, I mean, why is Zeke Elliott only rushing for 25 yards?
He's hurt. Zeke is hurt.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Zeke has a bone bruise.
He's still hurt?
Yeah, in his knee. Why? What? Were you not paying attention?
No,
I said we have to sit him and let him rest.
Yeah, no, I saw that. That was my fault. But still, Tony Pollard only 36 yards.
Yeah, now Tony Pollard just did not get going. That's what it was. He just couldn't get going.
That run game's concerning.
It's not concerning. It's just also the line wasn't playing. That had a very bad game. So when the line can't establish themselves, Tony Pollard can't get past them. I'm not concerned about the run game so much as I'm concerned about the health of Ezekiel Elliott, because it's clear he doesn't have that leverage to or that power to get past the first contact like he normally does. Like, he's getting hit and he's immediately going down. It's just he's not in good shape. Tony Pollard, the reason why Tony Pollard is also so successful is because Zeke wears them down also. Both of them work together to wear down the defense. Because they're different style. Right?
Yeah,
they couldn't do it.
Yep.
They could not do it on last Thursday. It'll be interesting how they do it against the Saints, especially because it seems like what's going to happen is that we're going to sit Zeke, but I don't know.
Which they should. They should.
It's going to be interesting for sure, but the Las Vegas Raiders 36 and the Dallas Cowboys 33. Let's move on to the next game on our list of games. Dan's Ravens beating the Cleveland Browns in one of the most sloppiest Sunday night football performances I have ever seen.
By both teams.
I mean, Lamar Jackson gave the Browns so many opportunities. Yeah, for crying out loud. He had 4 interceptions.
Yep.
And for the Browns not to be able to convert on that, that's sorry. I'm sorry. If you have 4 picks and you can't do anything to try to take the lead, I'm sorry. That's bad. You need to fix that.
I don't know why you're apologizing, Kirby.
Well, the Ravens, the Ravens defense won this game. I mean, they single-handedly shut down this Browns rushing attack that had been maybe not one of the best in the league, but certainly up there. I mean, if you talk about how Chubb has run the football this season, he had over 850 yards coming into this game, and he only rushed for 16 yards. I mean, they shut him down. And that was the key for them. I mean, the Ravens knew defensively if they were going to get pressure on Baker Mayfield, which the Ravens have really struggled blitzing all season long. I mean, we talk about them giving up that touchdown late in the game last week to
Chicago.
Chicago on an all-out blitz. I thought they learned their lesson, but they did a lot of, they did a better job this week of rushing, 4 or 5 guys, 6 at the most. I mean, they still had a lot of guys back in coverage, which is what I really like. They did a much better job in this game of also disguising their blitzes as well. And it showed. I mean, they got constant pressure on Baker Mayfield. He was already banged up. He has like 4 injuries. And they were just hitting the crap out of him. And that was the key for them, was getting a lot of pressure on him. And yeah, Lamar Jackson, if the Ravens lose this game, this one falls on Lamar Jackson. I mean, you have 4 interceptions in a game you shouldn't win. I mean,
not only just 4 interceptions, it was 4 interceptions targeting the same guy. All 4 interceptions were because he was trying to throw it to Mark Andrews.
Right. And only one, I think one was a batted up ball, and the rest were literally just terrible throws. I mean, that pretty much sums it up for the Ravens offense.
But the Browns, though, looking at the Browns, I mean, people are like, oh, the Browns might actually be a decent team in contention.
Well, they're
for
done.
The playoffs, and
they're done.
No, I mean,
Well,
I mean, they're done. They're
the Browns are in an interesting position right now because right now they're going into the bye week. As soon as they come back, they got to play Baltimore again. It's the weirdest scheduling thing ever.
I hate it. I hate it because they have like 3 weeks to prepare for one team. It's an unfair advantage to them. But hey, I mean, we have to take care of what we can take care of, and we have Pittsburgh this coming up week, and then we have them again. So it doesn't get any easier for us. But yeah, I think that, I mean, the Ravens, they didn't really run the ball well either. I mean, Devontae Freeman only had 52 yards and Murray only had 14 yards. So the defense really put the rest of the team on their back, and it kind of reminded me of how the old Ravens used to be. Even before we had Joe Flacco, or even in the early days of Joe Flacco, we could score, 13, 20 points in a game, and I could feel pretty comfortable that, hey, the Ravens defense is good enough to hold the other team below that. That's not the case in the NFL now, but yeah, the Ravens were fantastic defensively, and that pretty much won them the game. I think more than anything else, that defense deserves all the credit, and I think they garnered it in this game. I mean, you talk about Tyus Bowser, how he played, got a lot of pressure on Baker Mayfield, almost had a couple sacks. He did have one sack. You look at Odafe Owe, what a great addition he's been to this football team. He forced a fumble. I believe he forced that fumble on that terrible trick play
where Landry has no pocket presence whatsoever. I'm like, dude, do you not feel that? He's gonna pounce.
The Browns tried to draw something up because it wasn't working, but yeah, that was an epic failure on their part, for sure.
It's hard for me to believe that Case Keenum is not better than this version of Baker Mayfield that we're getting.
Yeah,
it's hard for me to believe.
You have to. Yeah, I think they're going to evaluate it. And listen, there's no reason Baker should have played that entire game. I mean, when you're talking about, first of all, his mobility was nowhere to be found because he's so banged up.
His numbers weren't good either.
Oh, of course not. Of course not. When Case Keenum's been given an opportunity, man, he's played well. I mean, to be quite honest with you.
I mean, you'll hate me for saying this, but he did play in Washington, and I feel like he did an adequate job in the position he was in. But
right, I mean, they had nothing around him, and it's Washington. So at the time, I mean, it's gotten better now there. We're going to talk about.
Always remember, he was the quarterback for the Minneapolis Miracle.
Yeah. Don't forget that. I mean, that was, and they kind of did him dirty there too. So, but I totally agree with you, Carlos. I mean, he's just. Putting him out there is just so dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, defenses are going to feast, and even more so than usual. And I think that was key to this game. I mean, it was just going to be, we were going to see like where he is as far as how hurt is he. And I think we saw he's very injured. Now I think for the rest of the team, I mean, obviously Tucker hit a 52-yarder, so I have nothing to say the negative about Tucker.
There's never anything negative to say. That man is automatic. Like I never fear him missing.
Well, in every week, every game, you see kickers that miss short kicks. This year especially, this has been a bad year for kickers. And with every missed kick, I'm like, thank God we have Tucker. Like every single time.
There's everyone else, and then there's Justin Tucker. While we have Greg Zuerlein missing simple extra points.
Yeah, sorry about that. But I think the key for the Ravens now, offensively, is, I mean, they got to get more healthy on the line. The line is still a huge concern. I mean, I'm not going to say Lamar. I mean, Lamar had extreme pressure for a lot of this game, especially when you talk about Myles Garrett and Clowney. But I kind of think Clowney's a bit overrated. That's just my opinion. Good player, but I think the way that he's hyped up, he's not as good as he was at South Carolina when he made that 5-yard lost tackle. But Myles Garrett was, I mean, first of all, Myles Garrett's speed is incredible. He was able to get a great angle on Lamar on that one play and still picked up nice yardage. But no, I think the key for the Ravens is getting more healthy on the line. They've got to get that together. That's going to be their first priority. Because again, I don't know what the percentage of throws that Lamar was like under pressure, but it was a ton. It was a ton of throws. There were very few throws where I felt he had a clean pocket. And that also has something to do with, those errant throws he made. And then another thing is, obviously he missed the game last week. He hasn't practiced a whole lot really in the last 2 weeks. He's missed several practices. So that's another thing too. Like, it goes to show you like what missed practices and missed games show on the field.
Not everybody's Aaron Rodgers.
When a player,
I agree.
Exactly. So those are the keys for the Ravens. And, as far as the running game, I mean, they have what they have. They have two guys who they're old. They're serviceable at times, but they're not what they could have. So I think the key thing is it's getting Sammy Watkins more involved. We talked about that. Now that he's back, they got to find a way to get him more involved.
You got to find a way to get the receivers more, like get them going, because it just felt like they weren't at all helping Lamar with anything. Right. Like, it just felt like, and also that was on Lamar because Lamar was not the best. Now, of course, he had that incredible touchdown pass, which we all lost our minds on. That was
just insane. It
was awesome. And of course, even Myles Garrett was like, I got to shake your hand on this one. Like, and then there's Clowney just throwing his helmet, like, what the hell? What an incredible play. But yeah, it's just, I feel like that's an issue when all 4 interceptions happen because he's targeting the same guy, Mark Andrews, who is his security blanket, who's a very great tight end, but Lamar needs more around him. And when he doesn't have his running backs going, which makes me think so hard that, like, if this team was 100% healthy, if they had Dobbins, if they had, all the guys that they have on IR back,
I think they're a 13 or 14 win team easily.
That's what I'm saying.
Completely
like,
healthy.
This Ravens team, they're without these guys, they're the number 1 seed right now. But with those guys, I mean, they would be the clear-cut favorite. So I don't know. I mean, I just think they need to definitely get the receivers more involved. Hollywood Brown needs to. There are certain plays that he could have easily made that he did not make.
Right. And that's the other thing is the inconsistency, especially with him and Andrews. But Andrews stepped up in this game when he had to. But yeah, both those guys, I mean, they have to be consistent. I think, again, too, it goes back to sort of like passing concepts. Like, they don't seem to run a lot of short, like, slant routes or short stuff to get Lamar going. They did at the start of the game, and I was happy to see that. But really, a lot of Lamar's throws were medium to long range passes. So the key thing to me is mix it up a little bit, run some different passing concepts. That goes back to Greg Roman. And I've criticized him many times for his play calling. And I think it's rightfully deserved because you have all this talent here. It's just, you're not the passing concepts are poor. So that's another key thing for the Ravens. I'm very happy with how the defense is playing. And obviously they stepped up huge in this game and played out of their minds. So I think going down the stretch, I hope they can continue to play this way. And Marlon Humphrey can keep playing the way he's played for sure. Because he's been great all season, but I mean, he was fantastic in this game. Sloppy game, but hey, a win's a win. Still the number 1 seed. The AFC is really weird this year. I mean, we see teams like
football in general is just weird this year. Even in college, it's being weird.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you see teams like the Bills and Titans, who 3 weeks ago everybody said, "Oh, they're 2 best teams in the AFC by far." They've struggled since then. So, the Ravens are kind of flying under the radar. You know what? That's kind of the way I like it. I know they're the number 1 seed, so they're going to get more. They're going to be talked about more in the national media, but we still got a long way to go. And the Ravens have mostly divisional games, and they have Green Bay and the Rams. So tough schedule. They got to take care of business.
Yeah, that Green Bay game is going to be interesting. The Rams, I don't know. Matthew Stafford is like falling apart in front of us.
Yes. Yeah, they're definitely starting to crumble now.
So, all right. Well, the Baltimore Ravens once again defeating the Cleveland Browns 16-10, and in 2 weeks' time, we might be talking about this game once again because of how the schedule is playing out in the NFL for the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns. When we return, we will break down the Washington football team's win over the Seattle Seahawks. Stick with us right here on the Kirby on Sports podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you about Regroup Building Services. If you're looking to get your home remodeled, any part of your home, bathroom, kitchen, want to get a deck built, anything like that, Regroup Building Services can just about do everything. And take it from me, because they came in and they remodeled my family's kitchen, and they do a great job. So if you're looking for any sort of home remodeling needs, deck work done, anything of that nature, reach out to my guy Sean Hibbard over at Regroup Building Services today. You can check them out on their website, www.regroupbuildingservices.com, where they do the honeydews that your honey don't. Make sure you tell them Josh sent you. For sports fans living in condominium and homeowners associations, as well as business professionals, when you need a reserve study, PM Plus Reserves has been in business since 1990. Their studies are accurate and easy to understand. Check them out when your association needs a study. www.pmplusreserves.com. You can also contact them at 703-803-8436. Once again, www.pmplusreserves.com. All right, welcome back. I am with the weapon Dan Dembski and the Swiss Army knife in Carlos Martinez. We are talking Washington versus Seattle on Monday Night Football. And don't forget, later on in this segment, my interview with sportsjourneys.com's Lake Lewis Jr., also the host of the After Practice podcast. We will get his thoughts on this matchup as well. Man, I mean, prime time Monday night. As a fan, I'm going into this game. I'm like, yep, there's no shot. Yep. There's no shot. You know, it's like
because you really believed in that whole they
curse.
never win on Monday night curse.
It was a curse on Monday night that Washington never won. It was very gratifying to see Washington pull out a victory, and it was not easy, to say the least. Let's start with the first half.
Hold on. Preface that with saying you guys made it harder on yourselves because it was
you shot yourselves in the foot.
Yes.
That kept costing
you guys. So, no, listen. Starting off in the first half, I feel like the offense could have played more crisp, clean football. The defense, I mean, the secondary still needs some work. The defense is shining bright, in my opinion.
Surprisingly.
Yes, surprisingly. But
they stepped up, yeah.
The two keys.
Until the end.
Excuse me, the three keys throughout this entire game. Taylor Heineke. I mean, that one interception, I mean, it bounced off somebody's helmet. So I wasn't really too upset about that. It's better than him just throwing it to a wide open defender who just intercepts it. That would be different. But still, Taylor Heineke threw for almost 230 yards in this football game. He played exceptionally well. He's still rolling himself out of the pocket. I mean, still the O-line, Wes Schweitzer got injured, obviously. When Washington went to their fourth string center. And I mean, the pressure, Heineke was getting pressured some, but sometimes his mobility gave him the opportunity to move outside the pocket to try to continue the play. The next thing, they were run heavy. They just kept giving Gibson, McKissick, and Patterson the ball.
I mean,
they actually were doing.
They actually were. Yeah, they were actually like performing because it's not as if Washington hasn't been run heavy before. They've been run heavy before.
They were run heavy, and it was working successfully. It was working out great because if they're run heavy guys and they don't have success, they're going to put the game on Taylor Heineke's back. And that's where I think Washington makes their mistakes, not consistently running the ball. I mean, you just can't shy away from the run with this Washington football
team.
That
about any team, but
no, because of Taylor Heineke, he can only do so much for this football team. So
I agree with that.
So 29
I also want to say, sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off.
So 29 carries, 111 yards for Gibson. Yeah, that was my second thing. Dan, I'll let you speak before I move on.
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick that, it's obvious that Washington watched the tape on Seattle's defense. I mean, they're not very good, and they struggle mightily against the run. So Washington knew if there was going to be a game, they were going to get back on track running the football. And we've said it week after week with every team, but especially with Washington, The concern was they couldn't run the football. And like you just said, you can't put too much on Taylor Heineke's back because he's still a young quarterback. He's starting to play well now. It's good to see, but look, long way to go still. Long way to go. Washington's got to keep running the football well. They just do. And this was a game for them to get back on track, and that was good to see.
Agreed.
All right. My third key to this Washington victory, the one major positive, Washington's time of possession, 41 minutes and 40 seconds. Seattle with 18 minutes and 20 seconds. The last 2 weeks, Washington has dominated the time of possession, which is huge. And in my opinion, watching Washington and running out so much clock, producing these long drives, even if they don't convert with points, I'm not really disappointed because they still give you those long drives that run out clock that give the opposing team less of an opportunity to go out and try to take the lead. And we'll get into some of the mistakes later, but I mean, still, hands down, the time of possession, they absolutely killed it. And that's what was so great about this Washington game. They kept just running the football, nice short check down the passes.
It's the old philosophy, like from a soccer standpoint, like the old Barcelona philosophy that, like, you know, you keep the ball, you know, the more possession you have, there's only one ball. So it's like if you have the ball the most, it's less of an opportunity for the other team to do something. That's why Barcelona used to pride themselves in having put like 70% possession throughout a game. It's kind of the old, it kind of applies to this, where Washington's going with the mindset of, we don't care if we don't score. Like, we're going to get our points, but we're just going to make it. We're going to put the pressure on you guys that when you have the ball, you have to feel like you have to do something because there's not a lot of time left. And you saw it really worked. Now, also, Russell Wilson
isn't that guy anymore. Yeah.
No, Russell Wilson stinks.
On his birthday. And, I mean, I'm sorry,
100 years old.
Russell is not the same Russell. Do we think Russell's
Don't be sorry, he's
MVP
not.
this year?
Say that
Because I don't think so.
MVP?
We've kept saying in years past, oh, is this Russell's year?
Well, he was a preseason pick.
Off.
I mean, everybody had him preseason.
Yeah.
In fairness to Russell
Wilson,
do. Also, the injury is still playing a part.
Yeah, I believe that too. I believe he just rushed too early.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, we said that. I mean, we've been saying that for a couple weeks. He really shouldn't have.
And also,
rushed to come back, and you can tell that injury is still bothering him with every throw.
Yeah, and also, I just don't think he wants to play in Seattle anymore. Yeah. I really don't. I don't see that passion. I don't see that drive that he used to have.
No,
it looks off. Like he looks like he does not. I mean, look at all the throws that he blatantly missed. Like, just wide open receivers in the middle of the field. There was even one time DK Metcalf's wide open in the back of the end zone.
Oh, he was pissed too. Yeah,
just not, throws that, like, I mean, just wrong angles on throws and going straight to the, defender. Not like, if it was more to the right, it would go to the receiver. It just made no sense.
Yeah, and DK's dad's gonna take to Instagram.
And I told you, Kirby. I told you on the live stream that we had before. I told you. I was like, Seattle's not the same. You guys have a shot. You guys have a shot here.
But listen, the game started to get really edgy when Joey Sly kicked the extra point after Washington took
Hopkins.
the lead.
Is he available still?
No, yeah,
bring him back.
He's in Los Angeles.
Bring him back.
But it's Washington's law to get an extra point blocked, an alignment to take it all the way back for 2 points. So instead of them leading, they tie the game. I've never seen that before. I've never seen anybody convert for 2 points off a defensive play since that rule was enacted. And the worst part about that, kicker Joey Sly injures his hamstring.
Well, not only that,
that's a kicker's injury.
Yeah, Washington had the momentum too. Like,
they did.
They had the momentum there, and then just like that, it was gone as soon as they. And I was like, "How is that?"
They tempted fate.
I was like, Washington can't even take the lead right.
And they tempted fate at the end too. So
Yeah. So that was one thing where I thought that might be a turning point. Come the second half, Washington, I think their offense sort of let off the gas pedal, and we'll touch more on this with Lake Lewis Jr. in a moment. But I feel like they touched off the gas pedal. They were producing long drives, but there were some times where Washington couldn't convert on those 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 4s.
Yeah, how many 4th and 1s did they have? It was ridiculous. It seemed like every time I looked up, they had a 4th and 1.
And
they never went for it.
Yeah, and giving Seattle the ball right back. But Seattle,
but they were playing so bad.
Holy cow, that was not 5 times that they go 3 and out. That's, I mean, it's ridiculous. And Washington keeps getting an opportunity to drive, and they just can't convert. I feel like they just let their foot off the gas pedal. Riverboat Ron, I mean, he's going to go for it a couple times. I saw that one where he went for it, and it was Gibson who took it a long gain, but it got called back because Brandon Sheriff was holding.
Yep.
So but other than that, I mean, Seattle, Russell Wilson, he wasn't there. He just wasn't connecting. But then when they took the lead, I forget who it was. McKissick. No, excuse me. Was it McKissick?
Yeah, it was McKissick.
Yeah. Yeah. So they took the lead towards the end of the game. No, wait, McKissick got injured. I forget who that was.
No, it wasn't McKissick. You're right. My fault. McKissick did score. Yeah, I don't remember who scored the last one right now.
Was it Carter?
Oh, yeah, it might have been Carter.
DeAndre Carter.
No, it was not Carter. Hold on, let's see here. It was I don't even remember. I think it was
somebody in that
Gibson
burgundy uniform.
I'm blanking on who. I think it was McKissick
I think it was McKissick too.
Oh, yes. Okay, so it was McKissick, and they took the lead like 17-9 or something. And then, no, because I was thinking of the Logan Thomas touchdown that got called back. But anyways, getting back on track, it was 17-9 for the longest time. And then that sequence of events where it was Washington can't convert, and then Seattle going down trying to make something happen. Then where it gets interesting here, Taylor Heineke, there's a very good pass to former Hokie Logan Thomas, and that was a touchdown. I mean, the rule states the ball can touch the ground as long as your hand is under the ball with control.
Once again, we don't know what the hell a catch is in the NFL.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, the Browns had a touchdown called when the nose of the ball was on the ground and it wasn't in his hand. So yeah.
But listen,
this league's messed up.
They went for it on 4th down to Logan Thomas. It ended up getting reversed, and then Seattle with the luck of the football gods just. Washington
wide open
secondary blows a coverage. Russell Wilson comes down like 2 or 3 plays and finds a wide open receiver. Thank God Kendall Fuller was there to make the interception on the 2-point conversion.
Right.
Because that was huge. But then the onside kick, I thought once they recovered it, Washington, the curse of Monday Night Football is back and they wouldn't win. But thank God that
Seahawks
you have a Seattle player that is illegal.
Lined up wrong.
Here's a thought from Clarence Smith, good friend of the show, Clarence Smith. It is inexcusable for an NFL team not to have a viable backup kicker. There's no excuse for Tressway not getting the chance to ice the game.
That to happen, though?
Yeah,
like,
you don't.
In fairness,
you don't plan for your kicker to get hurt.
To pull his hamstring chasing down a big man.
I agree with him.
And you only get a certain amount of roster spots.
No, Kirby, that's an extra roster spot that you can't. No, you don't have a backup kicker. If anything, you should be having your punter.
Emergency kicker.
There's no spot for an emergency kicker. How often do kickers get hurt?
The punter
should know how to kick also.
Yes,
the punter's expected to take over.
Yes, so they put up Tressway's stats, and
Tressway's not a kicker because he doesn't practice that. Because again, how often do you expect your kicker to pull his hamstring?
And I'm not saying it is another roster spot. I'm saying, why don't you have somebody else who knows how to kick field goals?
That's what the punter should be too. The punter should also know how to kick a field goal.
Special teams.
Tressway said in his post-game press conference that yes, he could have kicked from 20-25. There is no reason why Ron shouldn't have iced that game by sending Tressway out to kick that field goal. And instead, it was a failed 4th down conversion, which should have been a touchdown.
Well, Ron just didn't trust
you. Have no confidence in your punter
warming
kicking.
up for that.
Yeah, you have no confidence in your punter kicking, who's coming into the game cold too. Keep that in mind. I mean, how many practice kicks would he have been able to get? Maybe one.
Tressway's a great punter. He's a great punter, but how often does he actually practice kicking a field goal
when he's not screwing around? Probably not much.
Yeah.
Well, if I had my 2 cents and I was the head coach, I'd train 3 people how to kick field goals.
Well, that's why you're not the head coach.
And why wouldn't you have the special teams coach do that?
What's the problem in that?
Why wouldn't you have a special teams coach do that? Why is the head coach handling that?
Once again,
okay, whatever. Special teams coach, it doesn't matter.
How often does your kicker get hurt chasing down a big man like that? It's so rare that happens.
Okay, well,
yep.
Well, no, it's an emergency situation that you need to think about.
And that's why you should always have your punter ready to go just in case.
And that's
if anything, it should be the punter. There's no one else on the team.
As I said, backup kicker, I don't mean an extra roster spot. I'm saying another player on that team.
I feel like we're going in circles here. We're saying the same thing.
Okay.
Much.
Well, you said it was going to waste another roster spot, but I was like, that's not what I meant.
Because at first you were presenting it as if they should have another kicker on the roster.
No. Another player who knows how to kick.
And that should be the punter.
Said that to start with.
Yeah.
We're going in circles here, Kirby. We're going in circles.
Saying the same thing 2 different ways.
3 different ways we're saying the same thing.
Well, I'm not really part of this.
Well, Washington comes out with a Monday Night Football victory, 17-15.
Well, you guys got you didn't finish really describing what happens, because then it turns out Seattle was in a illegal formation.
Yeah, illegal formation.
The guy wasn't in the hash marks or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
How do they know that? I mean, they call some ridiculous flags, but that was very specific.
And then Washington gets a hands guy and recovers the football.
Which is what they should have had to begin with. Why the hell is there a big man out there, a linebacker?
They got lucky. They got lucky at the end, because that was about to end very badly had they not. So
I have nothing to add. I think you covered it all. And again, the key thing that we touched on to start with offensively, run the damn ball. They did. And they ran the ball well, and that was key for them. And Seattle's defense had no answer, but time of possession, I mean, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad. I didn't know Washington had the ball that large of a portion of the game. So, kudos to them for doing that. But again, Seattle had a ton of 3 and outs, so it makes sense. And they seemed like they were on and off the field so fast. So,
and that's why this
is a big win for the football team.
Yeah, that's why this victory worked, is because also Seattle wasn't doing anything with the ball. Now, against a team like Dallas, it ain't gonna work because we have way too many weapons for you to worry about. Whereas,
we shall see.
And also, our quarterback is way more competent than Russell Wilson is right now,
and he's not injured.
Yeah, he's not injured. He doesn't have a weird, messed up middle finger.
He's been using
it's a good one. You guys are still in the playoff hunt right now. You are technically in the playoffs.
I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, okay, whatever. You don't care. You're a liar.
I don't care.
You can't be complacent in that though, especially when
you can't say, "Oh, we're in the playoffs" when they're 6 weeks.
You guys are the 7th seed. All you guys have to do is, let's see, who do you guys have? You guys have pretty much all NFC East opponents left. 2 games against the Cowboys. Did you guys already play your 2? No, you still have 1 game against the Giants, 1 game against the Eagles.
2 games against the Eagles, 2 against the Cowboys, 1 against the Giants, and 1 against Vegas next week.
So there you go. You guys still have a primarily winnable schedule, right? Where the only 2 games that, Vegas might be a little bit of an issue. It just depends on how you guys come out over there. But primarily your biggest obstacle is going to be the 2 games against Dallas, which are going to be almost back-to-back. There will be just 1 game in between.
I understand from a perspective where if the playoffs were to end today, Washington.
Yeah. But that's not what I'm talking. What I'm talking about is you guys have put yourselves in a great position to make this run. Again, like you said, you have 2 games against the Eagles. The Eagles are not good. They're such a phony team. You have 1 game against the Giants. They're not good. They barely beat the dang on Eagles. Daniel Jones is the worst. And like I said, your biggest thing is going to be the 2 games against Dallas, and then this game against Vegas, because obviously Vegas is coming off the high of beating Dallas.
And two big barometers there. I mean, you get to see, like with Vegas, I mean, they're going to be Vegas is going to be favored, obviously, but you're not that far apart from them, I don't think, as far as a winnable game. Now, Dallas is a big barometer because they're the top dog, not only in the division but up there in the NFC race too. So it's going to be a key thing for Washington. They just have to take care of business down.
Here's the thing that you got to also consider, Kirby, is your team right now. They're starting to play good football. Like every week, it's getting better and better and better. Now, obviously, it was still a rough game, this game, but like they're still playing consistently good football. It's just they have to, they need that. They just need to finish the game off and ice the game, like you said. It's not impossible to say that, hey, Washington could make it into the playoffs as a wild card. It's very possible.
Yep. I mean, anything's possible. I mean, the NFC is wide open, and it's going to be interesting to see. For more on this game, my interview with Lake Lewis Jr. of sportsjourney.com and the host of the After Practice podcast. Stay tuned. All right. Joining me now to talk about the Washington football team's victory over the Seattle Seahawks on Monday Night Football is one of the best in the business, in my opinion. He is the owner of sportsjourney.com, the one, the only Lake Lewis Jr. Lake, it's good to see you again, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you having me back on, Josh.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to have you on. I mean, first and foremost, before we get into the sports, I mean, if there was a sports person of the year who covered media for Washington sports, I think you'd be voted best beard in the business.
Oh man, thank you, man. I try to keep it groomed, and so yeah, it's become my trademark. There's been many times I've wanted to cut it off, but I trim it down. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. So let's get into the action, Lake. Washington over Seattle 17-15, and you look, I mean, first and foremost, you look at this first half of play, and it seemed not as clean, not as crisp in terms of gameplay, in my opinion. And it just seemed like there was a lot Washington could clean up to get better, but still they had some pretty great pieces in motion. Heineke played well, and you ran the football with Gibson most of the game, 29 carries, 111 yards. That run focused offense, I think that was really huge for this Washington football team. But I mean, I'd like to get your thoughts on the first half, because to me, Washington had all those good pieces, and Gibson and Heineke played a decent first half, but still you had the defense and the special teams gave up a blocked field goal, returned it for 2 points, could have taken the lead going into halftime, but instead it's a tie football game.
Yeah, I mean, they've made it a point over the past few weeks to just run the football. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the injuries they're sustaining on the offensive line. We saw Wes Switzer go out yesterday. Ty Larson was out, the week before. So there's always, the next man up mentality. But when you have that many changes on your offensive line, the first thing that it will disrupt is pass blocking, because that takes a little bit more communication to do that. So I think that, Scott Turner or Ron Rivera, they've decided, hey, we're gonna force feed these running backs. And I think, as we all have seen, Antonio Gibson gets better as the game goes on. He starts to run harder as the game goes on. And that's really been a nice element and a new dynamic to this offense that's allowed them to sustain these super long drives. I mean, they're going on, double-digit play drives, consistently now, and that's taken time off the clock for the opposing team to do anything. It takes other teams out of a rhythm, and it's helping them win games. Hence, that's why they have 3 in a row now.
I mean, the time of possession was huge in this game. I mean, even though they couldn't convert on all of their big chunk drives, it's still a really good thing, like that they're taking so much time to allow their defense to rest and keeping Seattle's defense on the field. I mean, Washington's defense, there's still some work that needs to be done, in my opinion, but still, without Chase Young, without Montez Sweat, they look pretty darn good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have guys that are coming in, Shaka Tony, I got to say it because that's my school. We are, he's coming from Penn State and he's doing a really nice job. He made a couple big plays yesterday. James Smith-Williams is doing really well. There's just so many guys right now that are out there making plays for the defense. But I do think that what we're seeing is the offense having these long drives is allowing for the defense to rest. So they're not always on the field. We saw so many times earlier in the season, the defense was overexposed because they were on the field the whole game. And ultimately, any NFL defense is going to wear down if you're chasing and chasing and chasing, for most of the game. So I think as long as this running game is in play, Taylor Heineke is extending plays. They're letting him, play his game, get out the pocket, do some things. It just helps the defense. And then let's face it, anytime you can get 3 points on the board here or there, even if it's not 7, it's still points. It gives the defense a chance to feel like, hey, they can go out and maybe make a mistake or two, and not at a high clip, of course, but we saw them give up a big play early in the game yesterday. And then, of course, they gave up at the end of the game. They gave up a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. But for the most part, as long as the offense can sustain these drives and do their things, I think the defense is going to continue to get better and better, especially on that back end with, Cam Curl, Landon Collins, and Bobby McCain. They're starting to really gel together. I thought Kendall Fuller had a nice, strong game yesterday. Danny Johnson's been coming on over the past few weeks, and then you get Benji St. Juice back. So now the back end looks even better to go along. There was a gentleman on the field yesterday too, by the way, 1st-round draft pick, Jamin Davis, made some really nice plays. So he's coming into his own. So it's just a good time for this defense to be gelling as they are.
What are your thoughts on Landon Collins and his new position switch? Because you saw that peanut punch after the unfortunate Taylor Heineke interception, which really, yeah, it looked like a tight throw, but it got bounced off of somebody's helmet. So I don't think the blame is 100% on Taylor there, but still coming right back, forcing that turnover and getting the ball right back.
Oh, no, that was huge. That was a huge play. That's a confidence play too, for him to have the wherewithal on the field to punch the ball out the way he did. It was just fortunate because it looked like initially when he punched it out, it jumped right into the hands of a Seattle receiver who dropped it, who fumbled it themselves. So that was just a big turnover, and they needed that because you kind of felt like the momentum had started to swing just a tad. So when that play happened, it gave them more life ultimately, and they capitalized on it. So as long as this defense is making those type of plays and ball hawks, being out there on the field, that's always a good thing.
So let's move to the second half after the 9-9 tie. After the blocked extra point taken back, we find out that Joey Sly gets hurt, and Washington had a thing with Dustin Hopkins, released him, had a short stint with Chris Blewett, and then Joey Sly, it's a hamstring sort of issue, and Washington doesn't have a kicker. And yes, Washington's in the lead, but Ron in his press conference said we had no backup plan. I find that to be an issue, that he didn't have a backup plan for a hurt kicker. I know that does not happen often, but shouldn't there be some sort of backup plan in place for something like that, Lake?
Well, Tress Wade mentioned to us yesterday that, they do something similar as far as on Thursdays. It's not so much a backup kicker plan, it's a backup holder plan. So everyone knew the backup holder was going to be Logan Thomas, if Tressway had to therefore go and kick. But Tressway was reminding us of his days at Oklahoma, just how the kicking wasn't his forte. And that's why Bob Stoops told him, you have a future punting. So, to bring light to it, no, they normally don't have backup kicker things because your kickers normally don't get hurt in practice. If anything, that's the last place they would get hurt because they don't do a whole lot of kicking. They try to keep their legs fresh. Not to knock kickers, but a lot of that stuff, from my days covering this team, just being out there every day at practice, the kickers kick a couple balls, but for the most part, they're hanging around. So I think that might change going forward with this team because, Joey Slye's a big kid, man. I mean, he's a strong dude. And for him to drop the way he did and not be able to kick, that tells you that could be something lingering out there. But as we said in the press box last night, my friend, there's always Chris Blewett out there.
Yeah.
If you have to go back.
I'm not sure if I want to see Chris Blewett back, but that's a different story for a different day. But anyways, you have to end up going for 4th down, 2-point conversions. I mean, Riverboat Ron, that mentality, it's not too hard to get a 4th down. But in this third quarter, Washington seemed to not keep their foot on the gas, if you know what I mean, Lake, because they just kept not being able to convert on those 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 1s. But the problem for Seattle, they were going 3 and out. They could not put together a good drive until the end of the game, and Washington scores, and all that happening. And then Seattle puts together a drive, and they score a touchdown. Thank the Lord for all the fans out there that Kendall Fuller made that interception. But the turning points, the turn of events leading up to the end of this football game, it was nerve-wracking for some of the fans, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. It was nerve-wracking for people in the press box. We just had witnessed a team dominate another team pretty much, time of possession the whole game. Defensively, Russell Wilson struggled. He couldn't get anything off because he was under a lot of pressure for most of the game. But then to see them, kind of lay off the receivers on that final drive for Seattle, I was surprised by that. And I've always said, I know a lot of old school coaches believe in that prevent defense and not getting beat over top with a big play at the end of a game. But if you're doing something that's working the whole game, you should just stay at it. And prevent defense prevents you from winning football games. That's how I look at it. They should have kept their press coverage. They should have kept it close. But they had guys laying 10 yards off, and Seattle went right down the field and capitalized on a big play where somebody got behind someone. And then they got the 2-point conversion too. But one thing I've come to notice my 10th season covering the Washington football team, nothing's ever easy with this group, so you just know no lead is safe. And that counts for both sides. If you see a team go up 10, 15 points on them, you feel like, you know what, I've seen them come back and do some things too. But yeah, yesterday should have never come down to that. They should have blown Seattle out. And I really feel like that.
Yeah. I mean, that Logan Thomas overturned touchdown catch. Did you think there was enough evidence there, Lake?
No, not at all. That was a touchdown. And I tweeted that. I'm sticking to my guns there. People were like, the ball hit the ground. Sure, it did hit the ground, but his hand was underneath. And there's a rule that states the ball can hit the ground if your hand is controlling the majority of the ball, which Logan Thomas clearly was. And besides that, he caught the ball in the air where both his feet did hit the ground. It doesn't matter, in my opinion, if you go all the way down to the ground. It's just like if a quarterback or a running back reaches the ball over the goal line, it's not reach the ball over the goal line and hit the ground and sustain it. Yeah. So he caught the ball over the goal line, both feet hit the ground. Then he comes down to the ground and he still held, possession of the ball. So I'm sure Ron Rivera and company are going to get a letter from the NFL stating that wasn't a good call. Fortunately, it didn't cost them the game, but it almost came close to it.
So, Lake, do you know anything about the kicking situation, who they might be bringing in? Because I know there was a report at halftime. Ron Rivera was like, bring in your candidates and let's find a new kicker, because it seems like at this point, Joey Sly's out a minimum of 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, they're going to have to take a good look. I do know that there are, several veterans that are out there, and I don't think they're going to be bringing in anyone that doesn't have any game experience. That's for certain this time, because, you're in the thick of a playoff run here. You need a kicker that can get it done. And the unfortunate thing about all of this is that Joey Sly was kicking really well. He kind of, excuse me, he kind of had made everyone forget about, Blewett. And he was kicking at a high clip. So, that's a big blow for this team. He was kicking well on kickoffs as well, too. So, they're going to have to do their due diligence. But I'm sure today being Tuesday, it's the day off for all of us. I'm not at the facility today. This is the day they're definitely having trials. They brought some guys in. So we'll see what they come out of it with.
So, this game Monday night, the Washington's record was absolutely atrocious on Monday night. For me, every time Washington plays on Monday night, I don't expect a win, because in years past, but they managed to get a win on Monday night. And sure, Ron Rivera's energy coming off the field, that was electrifying.
Yeah, that was Ron Rivera. He was feeling it. He felt good about his team, and the explicits that came with it. That's okay. If your team's winning hard-fought games, and I think a lot of people have to understand, they're not just winning games that are, to some people, meaningless games. No, they're beating NFC teams. They're beating teams that come playoff seeding and head-to-head battles. You're helping your own cause. When you see New Orleans lose and teams like that, now the Cowboys are losing. This team right now, if the playoffs were to start today, they'd be in the playoffs, ironically. So that's a good sign. And I feel like that because they're playing some of their best football. And right now, it's kind of safe to say that Washington's actually playing some of the best football in the NFC as a whole. So 3 in a row, maybe they can get 4 in a row come Sunday against Vegas.
So, Lake, you were at the press conference after the game. I'd like 1 or 2 takeaways you took from the press conference, from how the players were feeling, what the emotions were like after this win.
The guys always come to the podium workmanlike. Landon Collins came in and, he was a little bit more upbeat, still serious, but upbeat. And he had a really nice moment where he said, the offense, and I actually have this on my Instagram page, the actual, interview where he said it. He talked about the offense and them, keeping them off the field, is helping them. So again, that's a good sign. And then of course, Jonathan Allen, I always say this is funny because Jonathan followed Tress Way, excuse me. And Tress Way is a straight comedian. If he wasn't punting, he could do stand-up comedy. That's who he is. So you had Tress Way at the podium, and ironically, he definitely let us know it was his first time ever since he's been on this team coming to the podium in a stadium after the game, at home at least. So he said the honor was all his, joked with us. But the guy that followed him is Mr. Serious, Jonathan Allen. And as soon as John walked in, I looked at one of my colleagues and said, now this is the polar opposite of what we just got. And John's just straight-faced, serious, and he kept saying that we clean up some things and there's a lot to work on. We can't get ahead of ourselves. He sounded like a Nick Saban coach guy. So those things jumped out.
Make sure you follow Lake on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter at Lake Lewis and Instagram at Lake Lewis Jr. and his website, sportsjourney.com. He's also the host of the After Practice podcast. He does great work. Lake, just one more thing before I let you go. It's Las Vegas at Las Vegas, home against Dallas, Philly, Dallas, then Philly. I don't know the gauntlet of NFC East before
Right.
they end. I can't keep track. It's like Dallas, Philly, New Yorker.
New York,
Just the gauntlet. What does Washington need to do to continue winning? Because these last stretch of 5 games within the NFC East is crucial for this Washington football team.
Well, I think first and foremost, they have to win the turnover battle. You win the turnover battle, you're going to win your fair share of games. Secondly, they have to continue to run the football and make a conscious effort the way they have been over the last 3-4 games to continuously do that, because it's opening up things for the offense. And then third, they have to play defense. I mean, the defense has really found themselves come around. If you put all those 3 things together, I don't care where you're playing, what city you're in, what your colors are, you're going to win some football games if you can protect the ball, run the football, play defense. That's almost football 101. And they're doing it right now, and that's why they're winning games.
Absolutely. Once again, Lake Lewis of sportsjourney.com, host of the After Practice podcast. Lake, it's always great chopping it up with you, sir. Hope we can do it again soon.
Appreciate you having me on, Josh. Have a good day now.
Is it finally time to upgrade your home's interior? How about with an authentic farm table made locally from recycled barnwood? Shenandoah Primitives, based right here in Winchester, Virginia, makes farm tables, benches, tables, coffee tables, and a long list of other items for your home decorating needs. At Shenandoah Primitives, function and style are combined for great furniture that will last generations. If you're interested in combining the industrial look of metal with wood, or considering something incredibly unique with a live edge, Shenandoah Primitives turns those ideas into reality. Thinking about a mirror, wine rack, or other accent piece for your home, Shenandoah Primitives can assist with that as well. As a local small business, Shenandoah Primitives is happy to work with each client for a custom design or schedule an appointment to come out and view current inventory. Local, high-quality, handmade items can be found at Shenandoah Primitives. Find us on Facebook and Instagram, or visit us at www.shenandoahprimitives.com. Once again, that's www.shenandoahprimitives.com.
Hey, sports fans. Thank you for listening to and supporting the Kirby on Sports podcast with founder and host Josh Kirby, along with lead contributor Dan Dembski. Like, subscribe, and give them a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast from. My name is Dr. Dave Miles, founder of Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation. Our company helps leaders build engaged and productive teams. Exclusively for listeners of the Kirby on Sports podcast, you can take an opportunity to discover your primary communication style and learn more about effective communication with others. Text Kirby to 757-903-0743 for your free copy of the Working From Home Communication Assessment, where you'll learn your primary communication style, how to better communicate with others not like you, and tips on working remotely based on your personal communication style. 10 minutes, tons of resources. Learn about yourself and your team. Again, text Kirby to 757-903-0743 for your free assessment report today. I'm Dr. Dave Miles, founder of Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, where we help you and your team be more engaged and productive by understanding each other better. Back to you, Josh.
All right, welcome back. I am joined by the Swiss Army knife Carlos Martinez and the weapon Dan Dembski. Gentlemen, it's time for the hurry up offense. Are we ready?
Yeah, let's hurry up through this. See if we can do it this week.
Let's hurry up through this. The Bears over the Lions, Thanksgiving Day, 16-14. I mean,
fire Matt Nagy. Fire Matt Nagy.
I mean, there were reports about that, but they weren't true, and they end up beating the Lions. I mean, what a terror.
Who cares?
The Lions can't
Lions should
win.
be removed from Thanksgiving games from now to eternity.
Agreed.
Stop.
The Bills over the Saints, 31-6. Not much to talk about there.
I got nothing to
I mean,
add.
Josh Allen throwing 2 picks, though. I mean,
yeah, but it didn't matter.
This matchup with New England is getting more and more interesting.
The Bengals over the Steelers, 41-10.
A changing of the guard. Joe Burrow, a.k.a. Kirby's doppelganger.
Yes.
It's starting to... I mean, the Bengals are... the Bengals are legit, man. They really are.
Yeah, they're scary for the future, for sure. And Joe Mixon, 165 yards. I mean, that's insane.
Incredible.
It's time for Big Ben to hang it up. I mean, this was the game. This was the game for me that said, yeah, okay, this is it. I know we talked about it at the beginning of the season. He had a nice rise there from where he started, but now a huge plummet. And the Steelers.
He looked awful. He played awful. Awful. They need a successor, or they're gonna have to sign somebody next season. Aaron Rodgers is coming to Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
All right.
That would be tough.
The Jets get their third win of the season over the Texans by a touchdown. I was surprised. I thought Tyrod Taylor could pull this one out, but the Jets take it.
Yeah, I mean, the Texans were shut out in the second half. I mean, that speaks for itself. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. That game.
Buccaneers over the Colts. The Colts gave
good game.
The Bucs a run for their money here.
But Carson Wentz only has about 90 minutes of good football to play, and then after that, he falls apart. And on top of that, I don't know why they weren't feeding Jonathan Taylor. He's like
he only had 83 yards this game.
He had
16 rushes, which is
but we have concrete proof that if you give him the ball consistently throughout the game, you're going to win. But they waited until the final quarter to finally start giving him the ball consistently, and it was too late.
That's a good point.
All right.
Yeah, I got nothing to add. I mean, the goat keeps doing goat things. What can you say?
He owns Indianapolis.
What can you say?
He owns Indianapolis. Okay.
The Falcons over the Jaguars by a touchdown.
Who cares?
Skip that one. Yeah, that's bad.
The
Bad
honeymoon is over in Carolina. The Dolphins over the Panthers, 33-10.
That was such a bad performance by Cam. That was so bad. Is he back? Kirby, is he back?
He's not their long-term answer.
He's not. He was back against Arizona, but he fell off the map already.
He's a good story for a couple games, but yeah, he's you kind of saw him go back to his New England ways in this game, and I think that's just the point where he's at now.
Number 1 seed, New England Patriots over the Tennessee Titans.
Whoa, they're not the number 1 seed.
Baltimore is.
No, the number 1. No, excuse me, first place. Sorry, in their division.
In the division. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, whoa, wait, what?
Not number 1 seed, first place in their division.
Huge game for New England to really show. I mean, they're the most consistent team in football right now. They're like 6 games in a row.
6 games in a row.
And they're even their last loss was against Dallas, and they took I mean, now that win looks better and better every week, but like it took us to overtime, and but Tennessee actually ran the ball a lot on them.
And they ran it well. They ran it well.
And also, you got to think for Ryan Tannehill, it sucks. He's missing AJ Brown. He's missing Julio Jones, who obviously Julio hasn't really done anything since being in Tennessee, but still, he's still Julio Jones.
His presence
and obviously missing,
is enough.
Yeah, and then missing Derrick Henry. It sucks offensively for them, but Mac Jones, Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year for sure is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I can agree with you.
And Belichick teaches one of his old players a lesson. Takes Mike Vrabel to the woodshed. So, yeah.
Well, Mike Vrabel took the Brady era to the woodshed. So.
That is true, and ended the Brady era in New England. So yeah, I mean, let's call it even then.
All right, the Giants over the Eagles, 13-7. What a big win for this New York football.
Overrated.
Terrible football.
Overrated. Eagles fans talking all that crap, saying they're coming for the division, and they can't even beat the Giants. Also, just a quick tidbit: the Eagles chose Jalen Reagor, the guy who dropped that game-winning touchdown pass, above Justin Jefferson.
Just so we're clear.
The Stooges. Don't trust the Eagles.
Yeah, I got nothing to say.
Cry, Eagles, cry. Cry, Eagles, cry.
The Chargers with some trouble in a loss to Denver, 28-13.
What's going on? What's going on with them?
I have no clue.
What's happening? They started out the season so hot, and now
you want to talk about overrated. How about the Chargers?
Man,
I mean, I
They
just
struggle.
I don't know what's going on, man. I
Struggle.
don't. But brutal game for the Chargers, and now
Yeah, just terrible.
It's giving Kansas City the lead.
And they're
They didn't
they're
even
right
play
back.
this week.
I know.
America's game of the week, the Packers over the Rams 36-28. I thought this would be more lopsided, but it was a pretty, closer
I didn't think it was
score
going to be
than
more lopsided.
Well, the Packers kind of let up in the fourth. I mean, they were
Definitely.
just trying to control the ball. They weren't
hey,
really trying
Odell
to do too
Beckham
much.
scored.
Yeah, woohoo. Yeah, the Packers were clearly the better team from the onset of this game, but like I said, I think they kind of let off the gas and just were trying to really control the ball, run the clock, and so the scoreboard reflects this game was close. When in my mind, it
it
really
wasn't that close. Yeah, it wasn't. And also that damning report coming out about Matthew Stafford having like chronic back pain and like his elbow, his arm is like in major pain. Like
it's from carrying the
he's
Lions. All
falling
those years.
apart right now. And we thought that maybe it was just because of Detroit. It just turns out Matthew Stafford just is not in good shape.
He's made out of something. Who knows? I wouldn't say it's glass, but the fact that he's still able to play is unbelievable.
I mean, he's a tough guy.
injuries.
Like, I give him credit, but I mean, like, who knew what when? Like, did they always know that, like, it's clear he's not really going to make it through the season, come 100% healthy. So it's like, I don't know. And his chronic back pain, that's nothing to sneeze at, man. That's painful.
That's a lifetime of pain right there. I mean, so, yeah.
All right. Leave it to Captain Kirk Cousins to lose you another football game. Lining up under your guard, not getting the play call correct. I mean, I'm just glad he's not in Washington anymore. Minnesota, you can have him.
Well, and
the
terrible thing about this game is Dalvin Cook only had 39 yards. I mean, that's
he got hurt. He got hurt.
Yeah,
halfway through.
Yeah.
So
still 39 yards halfway through a game.
Dalvin Cook is a very hot and cold type of running back. Like he'll have his stretches, but also he struggles to. He's like Christian McCaffrey. He struggles to stay healthy.
Good point.
That is the hurry up offense.
That was good.
Wow, we will wrap things up for you right after that.
Hey there, this is Mark Francis of Icon Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs in the Winchester surrounding area, including West Virginia, give me a call. I've got extensive experience, been in the business for almost 20 years, and would love to help you out. Track me down at Icon Real Estate, iconsells.com, or even give me a call, 540-247-1527. Again, Icon Sells, ICONSELLS.com, and I would love to chat with you and help you out. Give me a call.
All right, it's time to wrap things up. Dan, Carlos, what are we looking out for next week?
Cowboys Saints Thursday night football again. It's going to ruin my week if we lose.
Well, I mean, you got to say Pats Bills. I mean, this is a game that everybody's going to watch. Monday Night Football. It's going to be a fun one. Obviously, Ravens Steelers, another game. Always a fun game.
Luster it used to, though, just because of Big Ben.
No, just because of how far Pittsburgh's fallen. But
yeah, I like the Patriots Bills too.
A game for us. Yeah, that's definitely the most fun matchup of the week. If you just look at these games.
Yep.
And
Agree.
Broncos Chiefs also an interesting matchup as well.
Interesting that they flexed that to Sunday Night Football. Interesting, because I don't think that's a Sunday Night Football game.
Broncos have been an interesting football team. They've had some good moments, but they've had some bad moments too. They've been like a mixed bag. Kansas City has risen again. But this game's kind of that's why I say that. This game's kind of going to show us, like, okay, is Kansas City legit back or?
Well, it'll be interesting because Kansas City's coming off the bye week, so we'll see what they figured out on the bye.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, that about does it for another episode of the Kirby on Sports podcast. Once again, the weapon Dan Dembski and the Swiss Army knife Carlos Martinez. Thanks again, guys. It was a fun one. Any last words?
Hope you
Kirby's
guys
a
enjoyed your
stooge.
holiday. We forgot to say that. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I hope everybody
Happy
enjoyed
Hanukkah.
their
And happy
Thanksgiving.
Hanukkah.
Happy
to those who
holidays.
celebrate.
Happy Hanukkah if you celebrate. Merry
Yeah.
Christmas coming up here soon. So
Got a month, but
we
yeah.
can't wait. We can't wait. It's,
Kirby's a stooge. Never forget that.
yes, I am a stooge apparently.
Well, we're the
Thanks.
Three Stooges.
The
so-
Three Stooges unite again.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
ride into the sunset now.
Thanks to Patrick Bankemper from Trumbull Insurance, 540-532-0622, and the rest of our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, and Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate. Check out anything and everything. The Kirby on Sports podcast, kirbyonsports.com. Until the next time you hear us, always remember to create greatness. So long and peace out.